So it's been a while since we looked at the Mega Man X series here on the channel, and the reason for that is that this series is just really important to me. I want these videos to be as perfect as I can make them. Last time we looked at Mega Man X5, and that was a huge passion project for me. I posted that I'll look at Mega Man X6 when I hit 1,000 subs, expecting that to take maybe like half a year or so, maybe longer, and oops, that happened. But around that time, I wanted to start my endeavor into looking into another genre that meant a lot to me growing up, the retro first-person shooter genre like Doom and Quake. So I inadvertently took some time away from the Blue Bomber. I didn't think it would take this long though. Recently though, I wanted to change that. Before even finishing my Doom 2 video, I booted up Mega Man X6, got my notes ready, and...
This isn't interesting, this is boring!
So let's go back a few years, not all the way back to the Super Nintendo game. We're not going to be doing that till we look at the remake on PSP. But let's go look at a game that I can say at least tried. From seemingly out of nowhere, the game Mega Man Xtreme debuts in a nearly finished state at E3, about 5 months before its eventual release. And that was literally everything I could find on the game's production cycle. Usually you can get a good look into what production was like by looking at the unused content. The first X game had a ton of unused content, from different color palettes, these shield enemies being aggressive after you break their shield, yeah, you could break their shield at one point, and a ton more. X2 had unused enemies, unused upside down enemies, unused music, and is a great example to show that ideas change over time. Xtreme though had almost nothing except for an unused color palette and broken grass. Xtreme though had almost nothing except for an unused broken glass sprite and an unused SGB color palette. That's SGB as in Super Game Boy, not the YouTube channel. From this, it's really easy to assume that they had a very specific vision in mind for Xtreme, a soft remake or demake of Mega Man X1 and 2, blending 4 bosses together from each game, and a bizarre plot about memories and data coming to life so that they could fit this into the already inconsistent chronology of Mega Man X, setting it sometime between Mega Man X2 and Mega Man X3. Hearing this as a kid though was fucking mind-blowing. I think my first exposure to this game was on the Mega Man homepage, MMHP. I used to go in here all the time as a kid just to look at all the Mega Man games that I learned existed at a young age thanks to this website. This, as well as Planet Mega Man, which I'm pretty sure is rebranded as megaman.retropixel.net, is what really helped maintain my love for the series when I wasn't really able to play most of them. I only had Mega Man X1 and X5, a later X4, but X2 and 3 were nowhere to be seen until I got my hands on the PS2 collection. But even then, I couldn't find that 8-bit Mega Man X game that I saw all over the internet. Mega Man Xtreme for me was always the one that got away. It was the one that I always wanted, and then I never got it, even though it was available on the 3DS. I just had no drive to get it. But then at Too Many Games last year, I found it. I tested it out, brought it back home, put it on my shelf for a year. But now in a time where I put myself in a self-imposed Mega Man hiatus where I should be doing this, I'm kind of more curious to see if Xtreme lives up to those childhood expectations. So I'm gonna break continuity for a second. This is possibly the most awkward intro to any Mega Man X game, period. Every X game usually has some sort of introduction to it, from the silent tone-setting uneasiness of X1, the fully animated FMVs of X4, sometimes X3, a slideshow or an animated music video. But Xtreme breaks the mold, recapping the events of the first game while X stares you down the entire time like, yeah bitch, you better be listening, this will be on the quiz later. It gets you up to speed with X, the Mavericks, and Zero, downright telling you that he used to be Maverick with absolutely no hesitation. And after that, Zero never malfunctioned again. This came out a month before X5, by the way. X wakes up on Central Highway, the intro stage from X1, and as far as the game's concerned, we're just playing through Central Highway. But X is a bit more worried, questioning why the hell he's back here again. Clearly a memory since X can dash, showing how much the dash breaks this version of X1. Who needs teaching moments like the wall jump, am I right? It really feels like after you kill one of these, they couldn't program the bee collapsing into the bridge, so they just teleport you to another chunk of the level where the bee has already broken the bridge. You do have a rematch with Vile. Oh, I'm sorry, Vava. If you ever had any doubts that Vile was a ripoff of Boba Fett from Star Wars, look no further than his Japanese name. Though unlike X1, you actually have to defeat him. Oh, this is weird. I admit, I'm really confused. The game portrays its story as way more serious than it needs to be for a game that could easily just be called Mega Man X, whatever. We've got the main focus of the plot, the mother computer, that keeps fighter data stored from all the previous Mavericks from canon. And this is the part that I'm confused about. Are these these Mavericks being sucked out of the computer, or are we being sucked into the computer? Well, regardless, spoiler alert, a new group of Mavericks are using it in an attempt to revive Sigma, namely these two bots, Gimel and Zane. Those are names. These are the only original bosses you'll be fighting in this adventure, because the other 8 Mavericks are ones that are borrowed from X1 and X2. Well, I guess 4 Mavericks? I'll get to that in a minute. Regardless if X was asleep or actually physically sucked into the mother computer, the one who pulled him out was this guy, MIDI, because, you know, you gotta have your music references in Mega Man. Are we really bringing file types into Mega Man?
Do you like midis?
He's the greatest computer genius in the world or whatever, so he knows exactly what's going on with the mother computer, except for one important detail that'll lead to this character's demise soon, because this is technically a prequel, and any character that is introduced in a prequel is destined to die. We could only choose from 4 Mavericks off the bat instead of 8, making it kind of similar to Mega Man 7 or 8, and as a result, each level has their own armor capsule, heart tank, and 2 of the stages have sub-tanks. I guess you could say it's half of an adventure. Hello? I think I lost it. We have Spark Mandrill and Storm Eagle to provide us with our sub-tanks once again, though the placement of Storm Eagle's upgrades have been swapped. I have no idea why, but I won't complain. But Spark Mandrill stage has a secret armor capsule that wasn't in the original game, and you obtain it in a similar way that you get the arm upgrade in the first Mega Man X game. And that's cool. I'm fine with these changes. The dash boots are still in Chill Penguin stage, but since we already have the ability to dash from the get-go, what do you think Dr. Light is going to give us instead? Is it A, mid-air dash, B, hover boots from X4, or C, a feature that normally comes with the basic dash boots anyway? If your answer was A, then you have way too much hope in this game. You know how in nearly every Mega Man X game, if you press or hold the dash button right as soon as you jump off of a wall, you get that sort of extra speed and cover more ground? Well, that's what the leg parts give you in Mega Man Xtreme, and I mean, I kind of get it, because the Game Boy only has 4 face buttons, including start and select, and where are you gonna put the dash button? And their answer was the start button. I cannot blame them for this, but it is awkward, I'll be honest. You can also dash by double tapping forward or pressing down and jump, kinda like X's predecessor, but this means that a maneuver, kinda like dash jumping off of a wall, is kind of impossible. Not kind of impossible, it is impossible. So they gave it to you as a passive upgrade. The only downside to this is that this is your default wall jump now. You always get this sort of air, which isn't inherently bad, but if you ever need to jump up a narrow corridor, it can be way more challenging than it has any right to be. Speaking of more challenging than they have any right to be, Spark Mandrill, my god. So I guess the team behind Xtreme thought that out of everything that should be faithfully recreated from the original, that this is an exception, giving him way more invincibility frames that last far longer than before, making Spark Mandrill an actual challenge for once. I died to him, maybe even got a game over, I don't want to admit it. Flamestack though got treated pretty well, with his stage and fight feeling relatively unchanged from Mega Man X2. The biggest difference being that they gave you an armor piece that they didn't even really bother hiding, instead of a sub-tank. Chill Penguin's stage is almost identical to his original stage, and his sprite was almost copy-pasted from the original Super Nintendo game instead of being given a completely original sprite. Because of this inconsistency, Chill Penguin now towers over X. They also gave Chill Penguin way more invulnerability states, making this fight drag out for way longer than it needs to. The first Fortress stage is a recreation of the first Stigma stage from X1, because of course it is, and midway through you fight Zane. Oh right, you're in this game. I'll admit, this is probably the most excited I got in the game. Finally, a new boss with a new pattern to learn. And it's the easiest boss in the entire game. Jump slash, jump slash, jump slash, block, jump spin! How dare you defeat my buddy? You can really feel his loss. We do replay the second Sigma stage from X2, and it's got the same music as before, but it's sped up, so it sounds a lot more like... You can still get the Shoryuken like an X2, but because Crystal Snail isn't a boss here to help you create platforms, you gotta guide this moving platform all the way up, and it is the most finicky thing I have ever had to deal with outside of the entirety of... They've been given quite the nerf, or buff, depending on how you view it. You no longer need full health to execute it, and you can use it by charging and holding down for the Hadouken and holding up for the Shoryuken. There's no button combinations. However, the trade-off is that these are no longer instant kill weapons, just doing a little bit more damage than a weakness would. It's still my preferred weapon against bosses, especially in the upcoming boss rush, but why not just make it insta-kill at the cost of still needing full health to use it? I don't understand.
X, you could finally enter the core! Alright,
Alright, I'm going to enter the core! Okie dokie then! We've got our boss rush, sure, but the one thing that's surprising me is that it's actually using the music from Sigma's final fight in X1, and a surprisingly faithful rendition of it, but just in 8-bit. Actually, you know what? I could say that about almost all the music in this game. It's surprisingly well done. Some tracks are faster or slower for seemingly no reason, but my biggest problem comes from the charging sound effect for X's X-Buster being on the same track as the main melody of the song, so I really hope you like listening to the bass line. It's like someone's turning off the music just to yell for a second before turning it back on. After the boss rush, you have a rematch with Sigma from X1, which you can still exploit by jumping up and down the walls. But it isn't actually Sigma, but a recreation from the mother computer. Oh, this is Techno, by the way. Darn, with a situation like this, I just run away. Don't tell me he actually ran away. X confronts Techno and then dies. I can't do this, I'm sorry. Boss, you killed a child. It turns out that Techno is Middy's brother, cause of fucking course he is, sob. Techno is being used to hack the mother computer to revive Sigma, but as a failsafe, I guess as soon as the Maverick virus wore off, he just dies. Which in lore would make sense why X calls for peace but then resorts to violence? That took a dark turn. Middy cries over Techno in a scene that's honestly way too emotional for its own right. Though we didn't have any emotional bond to these characters, they really wanted you to care, and immediately afterwards, Middy fucking collapses on the floor saying we share the same CPU, so if he dies, I also die. First off, what? A CPU is a physical part of the computer. Are you telling me that in 21XX, we got cloud CPUs? But that completely changes the context of this scene, and I'm surprised that no one really brings this up. Instead of a robot mourning the death of his brother, he's also scared that he's about to die. Something that really should be said and is never brought up again. Sigma returns, because of course he does, sporting his final design from X1 in the easiest final form Sigma has ever taken before. Middy dies, X and Zero praise Middy for his sacrifices, for which I have to say, what sacrifice? He just had a fucking heart attack after his brother had a heart attack. What was that? The game dips into sepia tone saying that X and Zero stopped Sigma's ambitions to take over the world, and man, what the fuck was this? Don't worry guys, Middy's still alive, telling us that we can now try hard mode. Oh, never mind, he's still dead. I don't like this part. This isn't hard mode, this is part 2. Hard mode gives us the second half of the Mavericks to fight and isn't any more difficult. We have to play through the intro stage again, but this time with our new weapons, which actually is kind of cool, I'll give him that. Each of these stages do have their own armor capsule, but if you already have the armor piece that it's supposed to give you, you get the Zero Scramble instead. The stand-in for the Giga Crush from X4 and X5 and so on. You could summon Zero and he deals damage, and I mostly just use this as mini-boss repellent. Mantis Man be gone! You remember this guy from X2, right? Well, I hope you do, because you're going to be fighting him twice in this stage. And I get it, the first boss is supposed to be that floating 3D sword, but the Game Boy obviously can't render 3D. I get it. We get a cutscene of Gimel returning, promising that he'd mess with the system a bit, and that got me really excited. I thought, wow, maybe they're going to switch it up a bit. Gimel's going to hack into the system, mess with the level design, mess with the enemy placement. We're playing in a simulation after all. Something to really make the game stand out, something to be like, wow, have you played Mega Man Xtreme for the Game Boy Color? And actually recommending it over the Super Nintendo games, but no, they don't do anything with this. It's just foreshadowing that you fight him in the fortress. I'm mad over this. And it's such a lame fight, too. It's so anticlimactic. His pattern is so simple. It's like they had to create an original boss and they had good ideas for it. Like he flies around on a magic carpet, but just they could have done so much better. We've got our rematches with Boss Spider and Surges, again with Boss Spider being a fuck ton easier than he was in X1 at the cost of faking you out on occasion. You do your boss rush, you Shoryuken Morph Moth, and fight Sigma, and the end. Now, it's really difficult for me to not think that this is similar to Mega Man 7 or 8, where after you beat the first 4 bosses, you move on to the second 4. That feels like what they were going for, as if normal and hard mode are 2 parts of the same experience. But with how seriously the game takes its stealth, why not not go all the way? Have a cliffhanger ending where the Gimel or Sigma reset X's memory or takes him hostage in the mother computer and has to fight his way back out of it or something. And I would love to see Gimel actually screwing around with the game in the second half. Maybe give Sigma a separate form outside of the mother computer so that we could really distinguish real Sigma from simulation Sigma. And with this game being set between Mega Man X2 and X3, maybe allude to Dr. Doppler or something. Man, there's just so much missed potential in this game. This could have been so cool. You do unlock extreme difficulty after hard mode, which basically is just your traditional Mega Man game experience where you have 8 bosses available from the get-go, and the story segments are completely removed. I streamed it over on my Twitch, TravGuyTV, link in description, but I found it incredibly underwhelming. You do fight Zane and Gimel back to back, and that was fun. They're still easy as hell though. Sigma also had a new move that made me rethink that this is the easiest Sigma in the series, but upon dying and coming back, he didn't even use that move at all. I had to bait him into using it. The ending stinger for beating extreme difficulty is just Sigma going, I'm gonna come back later anyway. Don't know why you did this. And now I just really want to hurl my face into some drywall at the moment. But missed opportunities aside, I actually had fun with this game. It's a nice downgraded pocket-sized adventure, literally, meant to hold the fans over just a little bit longer until the release of Mega Man X5, one of the most important games in my life. But today, 19 years later, or hell, even 6 years later, a superior remake to Mega Man X1 was released. Well, not superior to the original, I mean superior to Extreme. So because of that, I can really only recommend Mega Man Xtreme to people who are die-hard fans of the franchise. There's literally no reason to come back to this game if you just want a remake. If you want a portable remake of Mega Man X, just play Maverick Hunter. Maverick Hunter's the cancelled one. The game is available on the 3DS eShop, which I'll be honest I avoided because by the time I actually had consistent income, I kinda lost interest in the game for a bit. But I'll probably have to use this console anyway because I do not own the sequel, Extreme 2, in any way, so I'll probably just pick it up from the eShop. But until then, we'll just have to wait and see. All frustrations aside, Extreme was actually a really fun time, and I'm really thankful I got to play it for the channel. I know a lot of people have been asking about the X6 video and are waiting patiently for it, and I'm really sorry I can't deliver for it, but I got plans for this video. I'm not going to guarantee that I can get to it anytime soon, but I really hope that when it finally comes out, you enjoy what I've made. Be sure to check out my Patreon. I post videos there 24 hours before they go up on YouTube, and you get your name up here with all these beautiful people. I also get to read your name out loud. People like One Up Commentary, Chef Kilo, AMT Neutrino, Slim Chim's Media Bin, The Bassist Luigi, The SideQuest Gamer, and Virginia H. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you liked the video, like the video, comment, tell me what you thought of Mega Man Xtreme, and if I got anything wrong. I'll do my best to get to X6 before the end of the year, but until then, I hope you all have a good one.